As a home inspector, I deal with this a lot where I show up and there's solar, and then I hear the realtor trying to calm down the buyer because, oh, well, there's a lease on this and I have to find out how we're going to deal with that.
Yeah.
So that's a problem.
So check this out.
That could be a problem.
So there's a lease. So to get solar, because it's expensive, you either paid it out cash. And so a lot of the systems that you're coming across now, when you're doing a real estate transaction, were installed from 2010 and on.
Okay.
Generally speaking. And there was a real big boom in 2013 to 15. So a lot of the houses maybe in that area, right? If the average homeowner is at 7 years, this isn't about the time that they're buying the house with solar.
Right.
Right, the new homeowner.
Okay.
So back then, you either had enough money to pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 cash. Generally older people, right? 70s, they have their money, they'll pay it out cash. If you didn't have the cash, you were financing it like you'd finance a car.
Right.
And they would do generally a 12-year loan, because 5 years the payments are too high. The payments are too high that it's higher than your electric bill. What's the point? So 12 years or more, or they would lease them. Back then, when I first started, the big push, Elon Musk, right?
I don't like Elon Musk.
I mean, I don't know if you know him personally. But
no, I don't know him personally.
Yeah. So before he did Tesla and before SpaceX, he had solar.
Nowadays, he's turning into Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that about him lately? He's like on this fucking mission. So I'm glad you brought that up because
What do you mean, Dr. Evil? What do you mean?
I was a big fan. I was a big fan of his for years.
He's a little weird, but he's cool.
But after watching Austin Powers, and Dr. Evil and all that stuff, he just kind of makes me think of that. He just he's turned. He seems like he's turning in a bad direction, and I just don't like what he's doing right now.
What do you mean specifically?
He's getting political.
Yeah,
that I don't like.
He's leaning it. Yeah,
he seems like he took over Twitter,
bro,
just to fuck with people.
Yeah,
I get so much money, I'm gonna do this, dude. Go back to your thinking when you built PayPal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like when you were trying to do something positive for the world and put some money in your pocket. I just don't like what he's doing, man. I'm not a fan.
Well, to defend him, he thinks he is doing something positive, right?
I get that.
Free speech, and they were
right. Yes, free speech is important.
Twitter was censoring a lot of people, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't work there.
Yeah, well, I'm not on Twitter. I care less.
I don't understand Twitter.
It's just, you know what it is? I understand it, but it seems too exhausting. Like you're always
everyone's putting their thoughts on Twitter, and a lot of people get in trouble for it. And I think that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
you are so stupid. You are so stupid. You're putting your angry thoughts about somebody on here, and guess what? Next thing you know, you're getting sued.
Yeah.
And guess what? They have a record of it now because that's a record.
Yeah.
That is a legal document.
There you go. So before he had Twitter, before he had Tesla, he had Solar City. I wasn't aware of that. He owned Solar City actually failed, like most solar companies back then did. And to save it, he convinced the board to have Tesla buy out Solar City, even though Solar City was a money loser. And the way he sold it is that he was going to package Tesla to be a renewable energy company. The cars, the solar panels, the solar roof, EV, all that stuff.
Oh, interesting.
But Solar City was, if Tesla hadn't, Solar City was actually ran by the time this happened, ran by his cousins. So if he actually had bought them out and saved them, they would have gone bankrupt.
Right.
Like a lot of companies did back then. Mm-hmm. They pushed Solar City.
So why did he fail? Do you know that? Do you know that reason for that? On solar? Why did he fail on solar?
It's very hard to push a national installation company. That means there's so many moving parts. Right. Why do most contractors, plumbers, electricians, drywall guys, they're all local?
Right.
I know a guy. He lives in there.
Yeah.
They're all local. When you try to do a national brand, right? Every 50 states, they were everywhere. To compete, they had to pay electricians, technicians, employees. Back then, I'm talking 2013, 14, they were paying people $35 an hour. That was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
When the average industry was paying, if you were really, really good, maybe $25 to $30 an hour. So they were just dumping cash on people. And they weren't finishing the jobs, the cash flow. It's very complicated, but essentially they couldn't keep it going. Most solar companies fail because the capital investment required,
Right.
it's too much for them.
Sure.
And they get greedy and they pull the money out of the company, and there's nothing to keep it flowing. I don't know exactly why they failed, but
Right.
Solar City, Varango, American Solar Direct. Those are some of the big companies, and
Right.
some homeowners listening might say, "Oh, I remember those companies because they sold me solar."
Yeah.
They
I still see Solar City boxes on people's houses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Solar Cities. Yeah, you'll see that.
Yeah.
Varango's another one.
Yep.
American Solar Direct.
You know, my neighbor right next door here has the panels. Has the shingles,
I'll come back to that.
the roof shingles.
I think that's bullshit, but we'll come back to that.
Oh,
So they
all right.
so it's they leased it. So what they did is said, okay, well, the federal government will give you 30% back in tax credit to the owner of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, if you're the homeowner, you buy it, you're the owner, you get the tax credit.
Right.
But if you don't, if you're on fixed income, you're retired, you don't have the tax liability, so you can't take that tax credit we were talking about earlier. Right?
Right.
So what if a company was to buy the system for you, they own the system, they get the credit from the IRS, 30% of one system, two systems, thousands of systems. They'll discount that amount from your bill, and now you only pay the difference, the 70%. And
Right.
they'll finance it, and they'll make the payments so cheap over a 30-year term.
30 years.
30 years. So if your electric bill was $150 a month, now it's $100 a month. Dude, it's nothing. But fine.
Right.
Okay, that was their whole spiel.
That's the sell.
That's the snake oil.
That's the
You
snake
save $50 a month, whatever it was.
Right.
So it was, and what they really sold was you avoid the rate hikes of the utility company. Yeah, you don't save as much as buying it.
You're fixed.
You're fixed.
It's like a 30-year fixed loan
Exactly.
on a house. Same thing.
And what they would do is during the presentation, they would inflate the amount that the utility went up. They would say your utility bill goes up 15% a year.
Oh.
Or 10% a year, which was, I'm like, if you look at the an analysis of it, and federal and government agencies have done this, the average electric bill, yeah, it's like up and down.
Right.
Sometimes it's flat, and then sometimes it goes up 7%. But over a 10-year term, it goes up about 3% a year with the CPI.
You know what else
That's
goes
inflation.
up? You know what else goes up 3% a year?
Everything else.
Rents.
Everything else, right?
Yeah.
So that's how they got a lot of people. And they would sell these leases, and what they would do is they would get the lease, they would then claim the tax credit. You know, they get 30%. Let's say they get whatever it is, it's a dollar.
Right.
They would then transfer the tax credit to, let's say, Walmart, and Walmart would buy that $1 tax credit for 70 cents. So they would cash out the tax credit.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you can't eventually get money for it, but if you sell the tax credit to a corporation that has a tax liability for pennies on the dollar, then everyone's a winner. But who's paying for it?
Wow.
The homeowner, right? So
Pour that oil on me. Yeah. What the
that was a lease program.
Right. And if you know anything about car leases, you can't get out of a car lease.
You're fucked.
You have to buy it out. I've leased so many cars in the first couple early years when I did it, when I was a lot younger. I learned my lesson. Now I know how to manage that.
Yeah.
So it's like anything else. If you're leasing it, you got to know what the way out is.
The way out.
Is there a way out?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand too. Just in general, any kind of a contract, there's always a way in. But most people never think of the way out.
So a lot of these realtors will come across, homeowners and realtors will come across solar systems. So the first thing I would say is find out if it's purchased outright. Like my house, I bought it out, and they had financed the system, so they paid out the loan for the solar. So when I acquired the home with the solar, I get free electricity. That to me is a benefit. Where I'm at, my electric bill is going to be really high. Right, I'm essentially off grid. I have a well pump. That motor's always running.
Yep.
It's really hot out there, so my AC is always going to be cranking.
Yep.
And it's going to be expensive. So the fact that it has solar is a benefit for me, because not only is my mortgage always going to be there, but now I have to think of, well, if I lived in an apartment before, where
Right.
my bill is like yours, like $30 a month or whatever.
Ain't
for
that
electricity.
great?
It's gonna go up. Right now, I have to pay for all this stuff. It's the cost of home ownership, right? So if it has solar, that kind of mitigates that issue. So, but only if it's owned. If you have a lease payment,
Right.
a lot of companies that have a lease will only transfer the lease to the new owner based off credit worthiness. So then you
Okay.
have to do the credit check for them, and there's a whole process for that.
Right.
So I always tell buyers, tell the seller to pay off their solar. We want it free and clear.
I see.
And then it's a benefit for you because you don't have to worry about no monthly bill.
So you're going to ask the seller to pay off their solar
Before,
with their funds from you buying the house.
however they got to do it. That's their problem.
Right. So let me ask you this. That brings up a good question. So as a realtor, make believe I was a realtor for a second, and I had a client who was looking at a house that had solar. How can that realtor find out the situation with that solar if the person who lives there now did
Doesn't
not
know
install
anything.
it? Is there a way for them to find that out, or is that kind of a gray area?
So if it's yes and no. So if it's a lease, you're getting a monthly bill in the mail.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There's paper
Right.
trail. Well, who's charging you? Who's charging your debit card or your credit card?
Right. What company? Yeah.
What company? Look at the letterhead. Look at the back, and there's
Okay.
generally a customer service line, and you would call them.
Okay.
That's a simple way. If you own it and there is no, then you go to your building and safety department, which is not that hard. A lot of people think it's how'd you pull those records? It's not that hard. If you live in a major metropolitan city of Los Angeles, for example, there's a website. You can literally type in your address. It's ladbs.org. You can type in your address, and it tells you all the permits of your house.
Right.
So if your neighbor's doing something shady, you see him putting in a new roof, you type in his address, you'll see if it has a permit or not. That permit number, it'll say it's a photovoltaic back in 2015.
How do you pronounce that?
Photovoltaic. Solar. Yeah, photovoltaic. So,
Photovoltaic.
yeah.
That is complicated.
Yeah, it's like photosynthesis for plants, right?
Right.
Photovoltaic. So they'll see a photovoltaic permit or PV solar permit, and they'll see who installed it. It'll have the company name, and more importantly, the license of that company, because every contractor to put in solar has to be licensed.
That was one of my questions for you.
You have to be-
Licensed with what? What is it? A general contractor license?
So it's really weird because California really wanted to push it. They made it very vague, and they let general contractors put it in. So they can be a general B, right, which is literally a jack of all trades,
Master of none.
right? Or they can be a C10 electrical, but a lot of electricians don't even know about solar. Or they can be a C46, which is a specialty, just like a masonry or cement or plumber.
Yeah,
C40
like I'm pretty sure a C46 for a plumber is when they have to dig up the street.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So a C46 is just for photovoltaic.
Right.
So it's got to be a particular license, but whatever, fine. The city figures that out and knows if they're legit or not.
Right.
But you get the license number, and then you go to the California State License Board website, CSLB, and you go to the website. The first thing it says is license lookup.
I see.
So then you type in that license that you found on the permit record, and you see the company name, and it'll tell you if their license is still valid, if they're expired, if they're out of business. And then if they're still in business and they're a big company like Solar City and now Tesla, well then you got a Tesla system. If it's Joe Schmo that isn't answering the phone,
Right.
then you're on your own, which is the most.
And that's what we have you.
Yeah,
So you can come in and check it out.
yeah. Most systems now that I coming across that were purchased back in the day, their contractors out. Right, there's no installation company anymore.
So that snake oil salesman is gone.
Dude, they're gone. They made those sales guys were making commissions of like $5,000 per deal. The sales guy, dude, they were rolling. I remember as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, I was looking at these guys who were rolling around in Mercedes, BMWs, and I'm like, Jesus. And the companies were just raking it in too, right?
Hey, man, it's not their fault, They were able to pull the wool over some not so smart people's eyes,
Yeah. So to go back to your point, it's not for everybody,
Right.
for sure. And if you're buying the home, make sure the system is yours and you're not going to be beholden to a bank somewhere else.